Greetings and salutations, Geek Nation, and welcome back to Geek Culture Combat. And we are your hosts, Rob and Chris. And today we won't be doing a debate. We are going to be talking about the Justice League Snyder Cut. We both have seen it, and we just want to share our thoughts with you guys. So, in other words, this is a review. So, Chris, you want to go ahead and start off with some of this Justice League? First of all, give me your impression of the Josh Whedon version, and then we're going to transition into what we just watched.
All right. In all honesty, I didn't like Justice League by Josh Whedon. I didn't like Batman versus Superman, and I accepted Man of Steel. So that's where we are with those.
Okay.
So I went in not expecting anything from Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it was better than I expected because I had zero expectations.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. The Whedon, it was supremely lacking. You know, the Whedon Justice League was just it felt incomplete. It felt contrived. It felt thrown together. And not to mention the whole, CGI away the mustache and all that. It just felt so. Well, we remember the talk when it first came out. We remember the talk. It felt like they were trying to play catch up, with the MCU, where just kind of throwing things together. And what was happening, with my impression, with the Josh Whedon, what was happening was the characters were put together and we felt nothing for them, right? There was no relationship, whereas, the MCU had a 10-year history to where we had an emotional investment. Whereas, the Justice League, it was so rushed and we had no time to develop any type of connection to the characters whatsoever, even though they were familiar faces. They were familiar names, for any comic book character. I mean, obviously these are characters that we've known for decades, but we felt nothing for them because it felt so rushed and thrown together. So anyway, that's my initial impression of the Whedon version of the Justice League. But now we move forward to the 4-hour Snyder Cut, where he was finally able to realize his vision. Go ahead.
Okay, so for me, Zack Snyder's Justice League was better than the theatrical, but he went into the movie in his cut knowing what the fans didn't like, and it's 4 hours long. You can't make a good movie better than Justice League in 4 hours. You don't need to direct again. I mean, that's a lot of time to make a movie, so there's no chance it could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, something was going to resonate with somebody because it's 4 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate how they incorporated each of the main characters more, how they used them as assets. They made them seem more powerful at times, but they also made them seem weaker at times.
Mm-hmm.
I did have some questions with some of the choices, but what did you think?
Well, I mean, okay, it's a 4-hour runtime, and I'm just going to push back a little bit on one of the things that you said, and you were saying that, there's no way, it could get any worse. Now, sometimes you can have a movie and it would have great length, and then it can just feel like it dragged on, right? Because there are movies obviously in the past where it just kind of went, it may not be quite 4 hours, but it seems like it just dragged on because nothing was happening. This one had a pretty good pace, and it didn't always, and it's just my perception, it didn't always feel like it was 4 hours. It did move at a pretty good clip, and it had that intermission feel to it, because it's like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 kind of thing. I kind of like that. Those have been perfect spots if you need to go, take a break real quick, grab something to drink or what have you. I think the pacing was pretty good on that without going forward. But go ahead. I'll pass the mic back to you for a second.
I agree the pacing was good, but again, it's a 4-hour movie. That's 2 Justice League movies combined in runtime.
Yep.
It wasn't twice as good.
Okay.
Some of the issues I had with the characters were still there, but better still, the issues I had with the cinematography were abundantly there. The movie's too dark. I mean, not dark sad, but I mean visibly dark. You have to turn off every light in your house and turn the brightness all the way up to see anything.
Wow. Okay. You know, a lot of times they do. I mean, I see what you're saying. I think it was a little brighter than the theatrical cut, but I do agree that there were some moments where it was kind of dark. Dark. But you know, a lot of times they do that, and you're aware of that. You know, you have a history, you know, working in theaters, movie theaters. But a lot of times they do that to hide some CGI effects. But you're aware of that.
Right, but when you're having this, like the main scene, the end scene with them standing on top of the nuclear reactor in
Right.
broad daylight, looked like they were standing in the 6 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, that was a little dark. I can't argue. I'm not gonna push back too much on that because there are times where it is a little bit too dark. They're trying to give it. I don't know. I don't know why they go that dark. You know, I mean, Marvel is bright and colorful in broad daylight. I mean, Captain America, you know, was running around in a Star Spangled suit and it still looked fine. So I don't know why they chose to go a really, really dark route.
And I think there was a lot of lazy writing in places. Like, we know Barry's fast. We know the Flash was fast. But how many times did he get injured to slow him down or trip to slow him down? I think 2 times on each one.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Injured in the leg and couldn't run. Then he got injured in the side and couldn't run. And I understand it's a tool to keep him out of doing something that you don't want him to do yet, but you could have come up with 4 different tools instead of the same tool twice.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me just say, let me go in a slightly different direction. I can do my whole, you know, good, bad, and ugly, but let me just simply say that I do like this Snyder cut. I love this Snyder cut. It's, to me, it's far and away different than the Whedon cut. It showed so many things that were cut out of the original version. It shows so many things, and I think the things that were cut were super duper important. It was so super duper important. I mean, Cyborg is more developed and well rounded. Okay.
Right. I get what you're saying, but did we really need Martian Manhunter pretending to be Martha Kent to have an intimate conversation with Lois Lane, who would probably find out, hey, that's not Martha, the next day when she talked to Martha? That scene served no point. And then he comes out of the room and transfers from Martha to his other form in the middle of an open window.
That was not good. That was stupid. That part. Well, I would say it was unnecessary.
I'm sure there is a lot of unnecessary fluff to this that doesn't make sense, and in a way that it makes sense if you look at it, but if you think for 5 seconds, what happens when they're not off the camera? It doesn't make sense.
Right, and I think what it is they're just trying to shoehorn some more characters. You know, they want to get an appearance of Martian Manhunter in there. Of course, they could have written it much better to get him in there, but I think they just used that as a device just to kind of get him on screen.
And then you have, you know, one of my favorite sequences in this whole movie was the whole battle with Darkseid.
Okay.
But it messed up on multiple levels. One, you don't introduce your big bad and then show him getting butchered and dragged off the battlefield all in the same scene, because it loses the threat he is. He's not an undefeatable threat. He's the guy that got took and he can get taken again.
But they're saying,
go ahead.
They're saying it happened like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and he's much stronger now. I guess that's what they're saying. He almost conquered the world, and you know, and he was much weaker. But now he's, I guess,
right. But you don't. The only time you show him half power is when he gets trounced on by other people. Not just that. That entire sequence was exactly the exact same of the Lord of the Rings. 3 armies meet up to defeat a bad guy, and then have to hide all his little artifacts away with the 3 races.
Well, with storytelling, Chris, I always look at storytelling these days as kind of a cafeteria plan. I think it's really tough to be original. I think all you can do is just kind of mix the ingredients, but everything at the, everything on the, if you use my buffet or my cafeteria analogy, all the stuff is still there. You can only mix and match so much. So as far as plot lines, yeah, it is a little bit familiar, but I mean, there's so many movies right
not
now.
A little bit. It's exactly familiar.
Well, it's familiar.
3 armies with 2 powerful people. The wizards in Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. They fight Sauron. They defeat him. They take his power and they split it up between the races. That's exactly word for word, beat for beat, what happened. 3 races. And in this time period, there could have been more races. There could have been the magical humans, which are a separate race in DC.
Right.
But they kept it to 3 races, just like the Battle of the 3 Armies in Lord of the Rings. And it's glaringly, I'm like, okay, so we just took a good section of time. Don't get me wrong. The sequence is brilliant. It's beautiful. I enjoyed it. I fantasized what happened afterwards. But it's exactly from Lord of the Rings with DC characters.
Well, I can agree with that. But at the same time, whatever you change it to, then it'll be similar to something else.
No, you can be creative. You can be original.
For example?
Okay. One, they didn't need to have Darkseid on the planet at all if he's going to get took. They could have had Steppenwolf do it from the beginning. Steppenwolf came once, did it, failed. Now he didn't know where it was. Now he's come back. Because I don't understand how they lose a damn planet. They drove there in spaceships and they can't find their way back.
I can't defend that at all. I have no defense for that at all.
And that's what I'm saying. It was a brilliant scene, but if you think about anything after that sequence, it unravels the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I can't defend that. If they would have had some sort of reason why he forgets that it's on Earth, or that he's like there was some sort of power or something that is preventing him from getting to Earth or something like that. They should have did something to kind of sew that up a little bit.
My brain rebelled so hard at what happened in that sequence that it invented how the hell Darkseid couldn't find Earth again, and it incorporated Diana being born, the Amazons being betrayed, all that stuff, so that when the old gods died around the same time that took place, I figured they would protect the Earth from the new gods, and that's why they didn't see it. And my mind had a whole movie about this happening just to explain that inconsistency in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some inconsistencies. Certainly, there's some plot holes and things like that. But I'm trying. I understand that we're being analytical, but I'm comparing it to what we got before, and it is just so much better than what we got before. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's certainly leaps and bounds better than what we got before.
But if you have that much, by default, it has to be. If you have twice as much time to tell the same but varied story, it has to be better. You have so much that you can put in. Even if 90% of the new stuff you put in, that 10% that was better would make the movie better. It's not. This competition wasn't much.
Okay, it didn't have high competition, but man, it really did plug in a lot of holes the first one had. Okay, it really, really did. Let's see.
Definitely plugged in holes, but what about the holes it created or didn't address? Like Aquaman using his trident to stop the flood. When did Aquaman have the power to control water?
He was trying to stop the flood. What do you mean?
He was stopping a flood with a trident. When did Aquaman have the power to control water?
You're saying he never. Oh, okay. What you're saying is that's not part of his power set.
No, that's what Mira does. She manipulates water, and he's standing there holding the trident down, holding the tidal wave in the sewers.
Right. Now, Mira probably would have been able to do it a lot easier because she has hydrokinesis. but they were given that power not necessarily to Arthur, but to the Trident. It was really the Trident, and the Trident didn't do that. It only held it back temporarily. So I think we can imagine we can kind of let that go because it's the Trident.
But
And it's
it doesn't make it's just weird. And why would all the Atlanteans, who they explain in the movie, unless you're a half breed, you can't breathe air. Why do they need to make bubbles underneath the ocean to be able to talk?
well because of the sound traveling through the water.
Right, but in Aquaman the movie, they talk through the water. They just
No,
talk.
they made bubbles in there. They made
No, they
bubbles.
didn't. They made bubbles, but not to talk. They would talk just in the water.
You know, if that is the case, then there's definitely some more inconsistencies there.
And if only a few people like Mara have the ability to manipulate the water, then your society is kind of messed up. You understand what I'm saying? If only a few people can facilitate you having conversations, in that world, you have to be in a bubble of air. And if you live in the sea, you're not talking. In the movie, they fixed that by saying they could just talk underwater. That's why you didn't see the bubble stuff anymore. They corrected that. But he kept that in the movie. And while a beautiful effect, it makes no sense in how that society evolved to be able to communicate underwater.
Yeah, but at the same time, remember Aquaman came after. Okay, this came after the whole Justice League, so it was what it was in Justice League. And
right,
then
but
they moved to Aquaman, they fixed it.
Right, but he had the time. He could have just had them do a different special effect to have them still underwater.
Yeah, but then you're still gonna have people who, even if they were talking underwater, you still have people who have been like, well, how are they talking underwater?
Right, but that happened throughout the entire Aquaman movie. Clint, everything was underwater. When they were on the ships, they were floating in the water having conversations. They were all underwater talking, not making air bubbles.
Okay, so moving forward with Justice League, there are some things that were taken out, and there's some things that were put in. Like for instance, in the Justice League, in the first one, they had that little family over there where Steppenwolf and his parademons was terraforming the land and all that. They, with the little girl and the bug spray, they took that out. That was stupid. I'm glad they took that out.
You know why they took it out, right?
That it was stupid.
I mean, you know why? No, you know why it was in the first place. Instead of cutting Flash's side to give him another cut to slow him down, Josh made the decision to have him go help that family to get him out of the way. It wasn't a great idea, but it's better than recycling the same tools that you're using to sideline one of your main characters for the sake of the story. That's why that was in there.
That came out stupid. That came off stupid, man. I'm sorry. That came off stupid, and him pushing the truck and all that. And
it was dumb. It was dumb, but it was a choice. It still was a choice to try to. I'm not saying it was the best choice, but it was a choice to switch it up from either tripping or getting cut and not being able to use your speed. He tried to make him do something else. Wasn't the right? Something else could have been anything else other than chasing after the family.
Right, but then look at the other thing. They did the same thing because you said they were trying to get Flash out of the way. Well, they got Superman out of the way too. He got there. He make quick work of Steppenwolf. Flies. He hears something. Oh, I got to go help some people, and he flies with the building, basically on his back or whatever, while Flash is pushing the truck, with the family. And that's just to kind of get him out of the way. And I'm like, wait a minute. So he can lay waste to Steppenwolf. Like Steppenwolf is not even a threat. And you guys want to just kind of get him out of the way just because, I hear some people screaming. Let me go ahead. I mean, it was just so stupid. I'm glad that was taken out because I think that was dumb as well.
It was. I think Josh saw the same flaws I saw with the particular way it was going, but his solutions weren't the best solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, go ahead and give your overall impression, and then I'll get mine.
My overall impression is it's a movie. I've watched it twice. One to watch it, and the second to take notes and for this podcast. And it played all the way to the end, but I can't say that I was particularly drawn to the screen to watch anything. I think in the Flash, when he's rescuing his future girlfriend, I think I stopped, went to go get something to eat, came back, opened up a Coke, sat down. It was still happening in slow motion.
Okay. What
So
about how'd you feel about the Lex Luthor Deathstroke scene?
it didn't impress me.
Not impressive?
Not impressive at all.
Okay.
The reason why I say this is you have to be a comic fan to appreciate Deathstroke,
True.
and just throwing him in just to have him on the screen doesn't accomplish anything. Oh, the fans get a kick out of it, but it's like, oh, you're going up against Batman, a human and an enhanced human. The enhanced human could definitely take Batman, but you just established he got a whole team that's now living in his house. That's not gonna be a fight. That's not like Superman isn't gonna sit there on the other side of the plane going, nah, I'll let Bruce handle this. I'll sit back.
Understood. Okay, so what about the Joker scene?
Oh, I love that scene. I don't like the world it's in. It's a little too. It's way too apocalyptic to be entertaining for my taste.
Okay.
But I love the interaction between Batman and Joker, and I would watch the movie again, 16 hours of my life. I mean, 12 hours of my life just to watch that scene again because that's my Joker. Jared
Gotcha.
Leto is my Joker, and that just put the icing on the cake because I knew he can do a good Joker. I knew that a lot of his stuff had to be left on the cutting room floor in Suicide Squad, and just to see the reaction and conversation between Batman and the Joker in a way that we've never seen before, I love that.
I concur. I definitely concur. My final thoughts, I guess, would again, I'll just simply say quickly that I think it's an upgrade. And you may be right. It wasn't far-fetched. It didn't have a high bar as far as being better. But I do think it got supremely better than the first version. I think it filled a lot of holes, despite the fact that you were pointing out that it created other plot holes. But I think it filled a lot of holes. It gave us an opportunity to connect with the characters a little bit more. I think each character was a little bit more fleshed out. Some of the the negatives. I do think Martian Manhunter was kind of thrown in. I kind of feel the way you feel with Deathstroke because he is one of those characters that you have to be a comic book fan to get the significance and the little nuances of Deathstroke. I did notice how they kind of change, I guess it's the original way where, it's not like he wanted to, it's not like he wanted to make an Injustice League or a Legion of Doom or anything like that. It was just like, hey, you know what, got a secret for you, Bruce Wayne is Batman kind of thing. And we can see what they're going to do with that. I do love the Joker scene. I do love that. And I do like that Jared Leto had an opportunity for redemption because I don't think that his failings were his fault per se. I said you and I had conversations off the podcast years ago when it happened. Actually, a little bit before it happened, I said it's like I prophesied, and I said, hey, listen, the very next person to play Joker is not going to get a fair shake. That's the conversation you and I had. I said it didn't matter who it is. I said it does not matter who it is. They're not going to get a fair shake. And I was right. They didn't get a fair shake. Now, was Jared Leto terrible? No, I don't think he was terrible. It's just that he was so diametrically different than the Heath Ledger Joker that people were just like, nope, I don't feel it, right? And therefore,
crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore, when you get the Arthur Fleck Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix, it was a little bit closer to what we were looking for. It wasn't exactly, but it was a version. I'll put it like that. It was a version of Joker that was a little bit closer to the Ledger one, this and that. However, I'm with you with the Jared Leto Joker in the Justice League. That is more like the Joker that I'm looking for. And I think, I think it'll be a shame if he's not able to play that particular Joker in future installments. It's unfortunate, but hey, it depends on fan demand. But with that, I do want you to give it a grade. I'll give it, my grade. And of course, I'm not comparing it to MCU or any of the MCU movies or anything like that. I'm comparing it to itself. I'm comparing it just to the DCEU and the Josh Whedon version. And I'll give it a 7.5, which again, that is an upgrade over like the 4 that it was before with the Josh Whedon version. So yeah, it's definitely watchable, it's enjoyable. I may be able to I can give it an easy 7.5 and a hesitant 8, only because it was so much better than what we got before, despite some of the plot imperfections. But you have the floor.
For me, I definitely found some entertainment in the movie. Now, yeah, it was better than Justice League, but again, for me, it's not 2 hours better than Justice League. So part of it is a waste of time. Part of that fluff didn't need to be in there for me. Now, I can't give it a number because I don't know what number to give it. I can say it was better than bad,
right?
Or it would be number 4 or 5 in my list of DC movie properties. It'd be the 4th or 5th one out of all of them.
Gotcha. Fair enough, my friend. This has been Geek Culture Combat, and join us on the next one. Sound off in the comment section below. Let us know what you think about it, and we are going to see you on the next one.